fog, brain fog. That's what they call it now, brain fog. So meaning to say, your brain became foggy that you couldn't access the um, the document you were trying to retrieve, right? So because it wasn't part of training, the tendency is it's like they'll suddenly freeze or pretend as if they are not listening because it's not part of training. In training, and I'm sure you have experienced this yourselves. Um, there's so many things that we teach, right? The normal, regular Q&A type. Say if they say yes, you answer this. If they say no, you answer this. But then what if they suddenly start talking about, or they veer away about these things, and they start to talk about you as a person? So that's, I think, somewhere, somehow, we get lost in translation. It's like they're not certain as if, am I supposed to be answering these types of questions, or should this be something that I should call my manager or my supervisor? Because I think this conversation is veering towards another subject. It doesn't have to be an innuendo, right? But they're like thinking this wasn't part of the script. So what do I say? So I guess that I'm not so sure if you agree with me. I think that's part of it. They suddenly have brain fog.
Welcome and good day. It is episode 4 of The Leader's Edge. Are you serious in making an impact on your customer? Are your employees empowered? Do you believe in your people? Are you aware they're your biggest asset? If these are questions that have been in your mind, well, today we have the best person to answer that. We have Eckhon Malig, who is a customer service, I would say, uh, maybe even beyond the ninja, maybe a sensei. Is something that he has a passion for, and maybe we should start there. I'll ask Eckhon, where did this passion for customer service develop, and how did it start?
All right. Thank you, Paul, for that introduction. So here's the thing. If you notice that my AKA, so-called, is a customer service guy. I don't want to be referred to as the expert. I don't want to be referred to as the guru. There's so many guys who would claim to be. I just coined it in a way that it's customer service guy. So if you want to talk about customer service, he's your guy. That's basically how it started. So it's actually a foot inside the door. I'm sure you guys, Paul and you, Dino and Paul, would know that it's normally the foot inside the door. I mean, we do a lot of training, not just focusing on customer service, but when the clients hire you for that particular topic or workshop, they'll eventually ask you, are there other things that you do aside from customer service? And then you say, of course, right? So that's basically how it started. I've heard of one customer service maven. He referred to himself as that. But I just say again, if you want to talk about customer service, I'm your guy.
Okay, excellent answer. Customer service, it's been around for such a long time. And even the term customer service itself has evolved maybe to customer experience now. When I started working, there was still customer service, and so many things have changed. But let's talk about the most obvious one, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. Okay. Well, what do you see are the biggest changes that have happened post-pandemic compared to pre-pandemic?
Okay, that's a very good question. Now, one of the things that I notice is that a lot of people, even though this is the term customer service has been around for ages, since you mentioned that earlier on, I also want to be able to share that the terminology customer service has been there for the longest time. We have been, in fact, known in the BPO. Both of I have worked for the same company in the past. Um, we have been known to be the customer service hub, right? We're number one as far as customer service is concerned. We've overtaken India, and we've gotten we now have the throne to that term. But the thing is, the funny thing about that is that the face-to-face customer service is something which I believe that we are really lagging behind. And the reason why I say that is when I go around, I'm a foodie. Are you a foodie, Paul, by the way, and Dino?
Well, if you saw my girth, you'd say yes.
Well, I think that's part of the what they say that you add a pound a year, right? So basically, we definitely have added several pounds to the years have gone by. So I'm a foodie myself, and I go around, especially in the area that normally where there's new places to go to, and I always try and check it out. But the thing is, one of the things that I notice is that we really lack as far as customer service face to face is concerned. Now, the difference to your question, to answer your question, what's the difference between the customer service then and during the pandemic is that this year and probably until next year is going to be called a revenge year, right? For travel, for all the events, for all the summits, for all the conferences, all the team buildings are now slowly coming out, and it's mostly face to face, right? So the major difference I see is that we have been in a bubble for quite a while during this pandemic, and because we are now, you know, I should say, thrown back into the wild, we are relatively rough around the edges. So that's the thing that I noticed. We lack or we are lagging behind as far as customer service is concerned compared to other places in other countries. Plus, we have been in a bubble for such a long time that when now that people are going out, enjoying the restaurants, going to hotels, staycations, and all, I think we need to have a refresh as far as customer service is concerned. Meaning going back to the basics, like the remember this famous play that became into a book that everything I needed to know I learned in kindergarten.
Yeah.
So it's basically going back to the basics, right? So I think that's what we need to do as practitioners. We need to be able to give the all industries, I would say, refresh as far as customer service is concerned, because a lot of us suffered Zoom, Teams. It's like we're all caught up. We feel so toxic. Imagine having sometimes five, six meetings in a day, right? All just looking at a camera. And some people, especially when you have classes, they wouldn't want to turn on or switch on their camera. So it's harder for us as trainers because we have to be more animated because what we're looking at is a sometimes a logo, right? Or sometimes just an initial of their name. So in your case, I'd see PL, for example, right?
Right.
So yeah, so we tend to be more a little bit more animated, should I say? So the people now needs to have a refresh. Basically, that's what I see.
That's an interesting point when you talk about refresh, because even before, and in this case, maybe I was fortunate, okay, more privileged more than anything else, because I've had experienced customer service face to face abroad before. And one of the things that I noticed, even this is even before the pandemic, is that our concept of customer service really lags, period. it's,
Mhm.
it's just not there, okay, compared to other countries.
Why we're good or we've overtaken India as far as the BPOs are concerned is we like to be good actors over the phone, right? So
Right,
you
right,
have an agent who totally doesn't have any American accent, give them maybe about 2 months to 3 months, and they'll easily sound like a Native American. So
right.
we play a role, we play a part every time we're on the phone. So that's why when they start talking to these people, they're as if they're an American waitress or waiter serving people, like the typical Fridays or Hooters type of a setup where they're so friendly, right? Because they're thinking no matter what type of mistakes that I make, you're never gonna be able to physically harm me anyway. So might as well portray a role, right? So they're like actors.
Right. So when it comes to face, it's a little different because he's
Very
really
different.
literally in front of you. And
Right.
admittedly, it wasn't just customer service, but a lot of very big companies caught themselves, let's say, they literally caught themselves with their pants down when the revenge traveling, if you want to say, started
Yes.
to happen. And I just can think of an example. The airline industry, there was a big issue with Qantas
Mm-hmm.
Airlines, and they had other issues other than just customer service because they also had frozen training. and all kinds of other things. And these people need to be trained just to walk onto the tarmac. So they're having all kinds of problems. So that was definitely one of the aspects. But let's go back a little bit to that phone to phone situation, because when I was in the BPO,
Mhm.
the biggest, how would I say, black mark that the Philippines had was that the customers felt that we were not listening. That was the biggest thing. Okay.
Right.
They said we were pleasant, we were accommodating, but we weren't listening. Okay. Well, tell
You
us a
know,
little more about that.
you know why we sound as if, or we look, or we appear to be like we're not listening, is because some of the things that they say wasn't part of training. So say that because it's a free flow conversation, right? So a lot of the things that sometimes they would say is not part of training. So when it's not part of training, it's as if, the experience when we're in Zoom, right? And suddenly you don't want to answer, or you, again, literally you're caught with your pants down. You pretend as if you froze, right? It'll drop you off.
Right.
What really happened was there's a mental block, right? So, there's a terminology for the Gen Zs nowadays. What do they call that? They have a new term for that instead of mental block, because the terminology mental block, that's for Dino, you, and myself.
Stop.
Brain fog. That's what they call it now. Brain fog. So, meaning to say, your brain became foggy that you couldn't access the um, the document you were trying to retrieve, right? So because it wasn't part of training, the tendency is it's like they'll suddenly freeze or pretend as if they are not listening because it's not part of training. In training, and I'm sure you have experienced this yourself. Um, there's so many things that we teach, right? The normal regular Q&A type, say if they say yes, you answer this. If they say no, you answer this. But then what if they suddenly start talking about, or they veer away about these things, and they start to talk about you as a person? So that's, I think, somewhere somehow we get lost in translation. It's like they're not certain as if, am I supposed to be answering these types of questions, or should this be something that I should call my manager or my supervisor? Because I think this conversation is veering towards another subject. It doesn't have to be an innuendo, right? But they're like thinking this wasn't part of the script. So what do I say? So I guess I'm not so sure if you agree with me. I think that's part of it. They suddenly have brain fog,
Well,
wherein.
I've been through heavily scripted to free flowing situations. And admittedly, when we started, it was scripted.
Right.
Follow the script, or else kind of deal. Maybe it's because of the business atmosphere where things just became a little more complicated,
Mhm.
or
We were
maybe it's,
not just the directory assistants anymore, right? So they were
no, no,
asking,
we're
we were
beyond that. Okay.
like fight. We were like, you can handle hedge funds, right? So it became complex, not
Right,
just regular.
right,
Can I get the phone number of Mr. Paul Lazo in New Jersey? Because back in the day when the BPO started, the call center started in the Philippines, we were like just simple directory assistants type, right?
right. It was very straightforward, the conversation. But I'll ask you, because for me, there's more of an endemic situation with us as a country in terms of being able to maybe address those more complicated situations, like you're working with a hedge fund,
Mhm.
and the guy, let's say the customer, is telling you that he doesn't trust the company yet. Okay, but you don't get it.
Mhm.
Okay, you can't pick it up. All right, so of course you go down the wrong direction and start answering incorrectly or behaving incorrectly. But
Right.
that type of mismatch, okay, because personally, when I say it's endemic, it goes back to well, I don't want to blame anyone, but it goes
Mhm.
back to our whole educational system and everything, where yes, we can produce a graduate, but his comprehension isn't that great. All
You know
right.
what, Paul? One of the things that I realized is that one of the things that's missing in our curriculum, because again, I also have academic background, right? I
Right.
have taught in several universities. The thing is, one of the things that we lack in our curriculum, even as far as elementary is concerned, we don't have inference modules. or what we call reading between the lines. We don't have that. But in the US, they teach inference as part of their curriculum as early as elementary. So that's I think that's sometimes where we get lost in translations. Like if the person you're trying to convince to be a customer, right? That you're handling hedge funds and all of these things, and they say that they don't trust the company, the person automatically feels that he needs to be defensive and share who the company is, right? When in fact that's not really the question. When the question is that who, aside from myself, have invested in your company already, or who or what companies have you handled, because sometimes that's where we build in the integrity or the credibility of the business, right? You can just simply say, just go to our website, please review us. You can mention names, right? So but the thing is, that particular agent who's taking that call, as soon as he or she hears that I don't trust the company yet, I mean, in a layman's term, that's what they'll automatically respond to. You don't trust us. This is our company name. This is when in fact it's just a conversation that this person needs to, reply to and try to build relationships. Because why? They may not be a customer now, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to be a customer in the future,
Right.
right? So
Perfect.
you talk to them while you're okay. You might want to look us up. We have a YouTube channel, and then one of the conversations that you will have again. We have clients who are celebrities, and if I may name some, then these are this, and that, right? So eventually, it's basically like tree planting. You need to water
Right.
it, let the sunshine hit it, right? Before you finally get to hear this person, okay, you know what? I'm gonna give you guys a shot, right? So I think that's one of the things that's missing in training in call centers is that inference workshop or module should be incorporated into the classes. In fact, it should start from the schools.
Right, right. Excellent point. Of
It
course,
should have,
we can't do much about the schools. Okay,
yeah.
but
The thing is, yeah, but the thing is, that makes it harder for us. If it wasn't taught in the schools, by the time they get to us as trainees now, in fact, they should have this already as a basic requirement, right? That you need to know or you need to be able to read between the lines. But the thing is, when they're in the call centers or the BPO, we are expected to be like overnight workers or miracle workers, shall I say? That when we teach them that, they'll get it one time and that's it, right? So this has to be a process, a coaching session, ongoing sessions until this person finally gets, okay, I apologize. I wasn't really exposed to a lot of different nationalities. I wasn't exposed to talking to a lot of people from all walks of life in my personal life. But because now you are coaching me to learn these things, I eventually will develop it, right? That's one of the good things about that. So, I mean, that should start from school and then to the private or the training, industry. But we can't be just, we're the ones just teaching it because some of them would think, why are you guys teaching it when that wasn't taught in school?
good
Right?
point. Very good point. It is a difficult situation, and for me, it's actually it's a weakness we have,
Mhm.
especially as we confront now with with AI and Chat GPT and all of this, where your thinking levels have to be a lot higher in order to
Mhm.
bring maybe more value to the whole conversation, if you want to say. But let's go down about the concept of training inference, if you want to say. Currently, what other than inference, what do you see are some of the biggest maybe challenges a company faces when they want to improve customer service? You mentioned the ones that you mentioned so far was, of course, there's the revenge spending habits coming back. That's
Right.
one. Then you have inference. What else is there?
Well, I think it's really developing the right business acumen. I mean, if you want to be in the hotel industry, you don't just simply jump into the industry and fake it till you make it. A lot of people will say that, right? They'll, try to fake it till you make it. That's okay if you're the type of person who can pick up, a lot of things right away. But if you're not the type of person who can pick up things and you need to be taught it, what you need to do is to do a little bit of research. I mean, before you even go and venture into this industry where you want to eventually develop a career, you need to be able to do a lot of observations, a lot of immersions, right? So when you are studying, OJT and apprentice is a big, it really is a big thing that would help you develop the business acumen. You don't just simply jump into an industry where you have no knowledge of, only because it's the industry that's booming right now, and that's where a lot of the people get paid the most, right? That's a good, shall I say, motivation if that's how you want to look at it. But really, if you want to get into an industry where you want to build a career in, you have to be able to make sure that you do a lot of research as well, because having the right business acumen would make you react properly, right? So inference is there, body language is there. You have to have good listening skills, not for you to use as the term Marites or Karen in the United States, right? But you need to have good listening skills so that you're listening to keywords. If you're in the restaurant and you're a waiter or a server, I should say, and you have a table that's near you and you're the one taking care of that table, without even really looking at the table, but just look elsewhere and focus your hearing towards that table. There are keywords you're supposed to be listening to. Number one, fork, spoon, knife, hot, spices, tissue, water. When you hear those words, you immediately focus your attention now to that table, because they probably need some of the things that they mentioned. So even without waiting for them to raise their hand, but because you heard it, go and be proactive and get it and bring it to them. You heard spoon, automatically get a set, and then say, by the way, if there's anyone who needs extra spoon, you give it there. They'll say, wow, this person is psychic. We weren't even asking for the spoon yet. He just probably heard us, right? So when you're observing body language, for example, what are the normal movements when people are eating? It's usually like this and drink, right? So when you see other movements aside from the normal movements when people eat, that probably is a signal for you to look at that table again, because they probably might be calling you, right? So all of these things, when you're a server. So if you're in a hotel now, like you're a concierge, right? The concierge is the go-to guy. It's like the drug dealer in New York, right?
Mm.
They'll automatically, when they hear keywords, they should go to you. By the way, I'm the concierge. They're like butlers, right? Uh, they should go to you right away. And I can't help but overhear that you are looking for some tickets for this particular concert, right? That's normally where the time that you go to a concierge and ask for help. But the concierge here in the Philippines is like they're so, uh, what should I say? So strict looking. They look very uptight, right? When you watch in movies and when you actually gone to travel international, you'd see that the concierge are like it's like, hey, do you have the stash? It's not really a stash. They'll be the person you'll be asking from, whatever it is, right? You get my point, right? When I say,
Absolutely, yes. Whatever you need,
yeah,
talk to me.
whatever you need extra clothes, you need tickets, you need reservations. You normally go to a concierge, but when you look at the concierge in hotels here, they look so strict. They look so uptight. Like you can only ask them, like, "Where's the washroom? Where's the directional things?" And they'll just point you there. But the things like that, and I would notice, and sometimes it's a pet peeve, even though that I would like to be the person who can help them as far as customers concerned, customer service is concerned. But the thing is, I'm the number one person who notices all the gaps in between, and it's kind of it's a pet peeve of mine. So that's why sometimes when I see these things, I go up. If it's a small business, if it's possible, if I can talk to the owner, and I'll give them the observation, and I say, "Here's my card. If you guys need to talk, just explore whatever it is. I think you need help in this, in this, in that, in this." So yeah, so I think that's
You
that's
know,
what I.
I like the example you use of the waiter because I graduated hotel and restaurant administration 1985, long time ago. And when they're talking about waiters, they summed it up very nicely. It's, waiter is a person who's there when you need him. Otherwise, he's not visible. I
Yeah,
said, that's smart. Thank you. But the way
right.
you described it is a very good descriptor of what a waiter should be.
Right. You have to
Okay.
have good listening skills. Your peripheral vision has to be really well developed, because you'd be noticing, right, in some local fast foods, you are literally tapping him almost in the shoulder, but he won't look at you. It's it's not that he doesn't see you, but he doesn't want to look at you. Because why? If he looks at you, he is signaling to you that I see you see me, therefore I have no choice but to take care of you. Right? So that's why they don't want to look at you. That's why you keep it,
Good
hey,
point.
right? You're calling them. You literally, almost hitting them on the shoulder. If you do that, they'll look at you, but otherwise, they will not look at you. Why? Again, it's a signal that, hey, I see you, you see me, take care of me.
Okay, so typically, if you are approached by, let's say, a business owner, let's say it's a small one, then we'll talk about a big multinational. But let's say it's a small one, and he does say, "Okay, Eckhon, let's see what we can do," without, of course, revealing all your secrets. But typically, what's the biggest gap you see that the owner himself is missing? How come he can't get his staff to do that kind of work?
Um, I'm not going to name names and I'm not going to name companies, but it starts from the owner as well.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like I mean, the owner has to have the right acumen. Sometimes some of these owners just are financially capable and they want to start their own business, right? Even really without fully thinking that is this the type of business that I really would want to start. So they just say, okay, this is what's in now. So let's start a restaurant, even without having any history in the family, in the background, to have at least work in a fast food chain. And then they want to get into it, right? So number one is the owners themselves. They have to have again, like what I said, if you are planning to go into something, whether it's a career or a business, you have to have enough due diligence, right? You have to, if you are taking postgraduate courses, there has to be some feasibility to what you are getting into, not just because you have the money to get into it, but you want to make more money. That's why you're getting into it, not to lose the money and realize that what, I did not do enough due diligence. That's why I'm just going to close this business down. So I think that's one of the things the owner has to have, again, the right business acumen for that. I mean, why would you want to go into a particular business without having the interest for it? I mean, right? Some people would want to open milk tea coffee shops only because there's almost everywhere you go, you see a lot of these milk teas and coffee shops. But yourself, you are not a connoisseur. You are not a coffee lover, right? You can be a drinker, a coffee drinker, meaning you drink coffee mainly because of your work. You need to stay away. um, Not because you enjoy the different flavors, the different brews and all of that. So you don't just simply get into it without really having the right interest.
Okay, all right. Well, let's take this more to, let's say you're working with a larger company. Okay, it could be a large company, local or even a multinational one, and you're tasked to do customer service work. What are the typical gaps do you see that why the customer service maybe is not working as it's supposed to?
Right. Sometimes, if the company is so big already, like for example, let's say uh, a top beverage manufacturer in the Philippines that's also known worldwide, and you probably would have an idea of which I'm referring to. They have a very good boss. The owner is very, as far as charity work, diversity of his businesses, it's all there, right? But the thing is, one of the things that I feel that because it's such a big company and the position he's at is so high that there are tendencies that there are things that are happening on the ground that he's not fully aware of anymore, right? Like, for example, the last administration prior to the new administration, even if the president says that there'll be no more corrupt officials and all of these things, you can only control at least your cabinet members, right? When you have cabinet meetings and tell them, hey, let me check your salin and all of that, it shouldn't be going bigger than what it used to be. But what about the USEX, the assets, the directors? He's not going to be able to monitor all of these things because it's such a big the food chain is so big already, like in multinationals or international conglomerates, right? They're so big sometimes that the brand is there, but there are certain things that none of the higher ups are aware of anymore because people in the mid-level are trying to control that. So when they report to the upper management, they'll just report what the upper management wants to hear, not the, not the nitty-gritty nook and cranny of whether they've had bashers or not, right? So they won't get it. So it's the transparency. That's the number one. Transparency from the ground all the way to the top. It has to, if the regular staff sees that gap, the CEO or the owner has to have seen that gap too. But because there's mid-level management, they are the ones who tries to filter that out so that the upper management does not see that. So it starts with the management, right? And then in any company that we would like to help or we've helped in the past, we always start with either what we call mystery dining, mystery shopping. So we want to be able to experience your services without any of your people knowing. But what we're doing is we're actually taking down notes from A to Z of the things that we notice. And I have done a lot of mystery dining. In fact, even looking as were uh, the not the shampoo but the hand washers, are they half or were they filled to the brim? Even looking at that, are there any bulbs that are busted? The next time I came back, as normally I do two mystery shoppings, right? The first one, and after you've given the feedback, the next one is this: you should not be seeing the same things again. And sometimes you'd see it, oh my god, that bulb is still busted. So up to that small detail you notice, right? And then you give it out in a report, and then you come up with the training wherein all these things that you've seen, plus the gaps as far as interaction with the customers are concerned, are added into the deck, into the actual workshop. So it's not just a 1 day type of thing. You do theories, but there has to be, like in school, right? When we have chemistry, you have chem classroom and chem lab, right? So you have to have a lab session, which is mostly spent on role playing sessions as well. So a lot of companies, when they ask you how long your training is, and you say, let's say 2 to 3 days, they'll say, for customer service, 2 to 3 days. I said, how old are your people? I mean, 20, 30 years old, most of them have never had any training at all. So you expect me to change that 30-year-old man with no training whatsoever to fit it in 1 day and he'll change right away? I mean, again, we're not miracle workers here.
Right.
There, there has to be a process. So that's why. So some of the people or the companies that are just simply trying to get rid of the budget, they'll take you, like wham bam, thank you, ma'am session, right? So it's just one session. I'll see you again next year. So it'll be like the movie. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but I'm hoping you are. The Same Time Next Year movie.
No, I haven't watched it. I'm sorry, but based on our conversation,
Look it up. Dino, you tell us if you know this movie. It's Alan Alda from the TV series MASH. He was the lead actor there. I think Ellen Bernstein was the lady. So they would see each other. They were what do you call this? Strangers, but they would always be in the same place every year to go on retreat by themselves, to be separate from their families, right? So it was a movie that became like that. So Same Time Next Year. They started out. It was like multi generational. They started out like, let's say they're still, yeah, a little past teenagers, all the way up until they became grandmas and grandpas. They would always see each other every single year on the same day and month. So it's called Same Time Next Year. So some clients just do that, right? Okay, I'll just see you next year.
right. Actually, I've had that experience also, and it happened to be with government offices mainly. I've got to get rid of the budget.
They're trying to finish the budget for the year because they don't want to return it to the to the
Yeah,
treasury, right?
I even had one case. Surprisingly, they even paid me before I delivered.
Because they don't want to hold the money anymore.
Yeah, I said usually the government's what 30 days or something, right? So wow, look, I got the payment even
Because
before I
most of the
delivered.
offices they pay 30 to 45 days
Yeah,
after.
usually. But anyway, what's interesting about the comment you made about the business owner maybe too big? the business become too big. Well, it is a leadership challenge of especially the upper management, even the owner himself, to be able to translate his passion for the business and make it come down.
Mhm.
And the typical situation where you have where the middle manager isn't maybe allowing information to flow up,
Mhm.
or it's filtered, if you want to say. I've done too many courses where I literally asked them, how many guys have given you an answer to your boss that wasn't the right one, but it was one you knew he would like? Most of them raise their hand. They go, so what do you want?
Yeah, right. So that's the thing is, even if you keep training, for example, customer service, but the managers aren't on board in the way that they are not policing their employees, right? Their staff. The employee will just say, nobody called my attention this time that I am supposed to do this, so I'm guessing that it's okay, right? So I'll just might as well continue doing this. And you know how it is, right? In the Philippines, sometimes when we see that things become normal, even if they're not correct, people will just keep doing it, right? Everybody's
Right,
doing it.
right,
They will say, he does that, she does that. So I'm guessing that even if it's not really correct, I can do it because it becomes a norm,
right,
which
right,
is very, very skewed in that aspect, right? Because if you know and you have your personal integrity, no matter how many people in your organization does that, but if you know that it's a line that you are about to cross, don't even cross it, right? Just be the black sheep, black sheep in the aspect. You're the one going against the grain.
right, right. Well, that is very true. There's a lot of I can't remember when customer service started actually realizing that sales and customer service are related.
Mhm.
But it happens definitely in my career, in my 30 years of working. It happened sometime then. I can't remember when they started realizing that, hey, look, it's cheaper to sell to maintain an old client rather than it is to go find a new one, kind of deal. Okay. And that was all really had to do with customer service, and even the term customer experience is actually relatively new. But there is a direct relationship between customer experience and employee experience.
Mhm.
Okay, so much of the situations that we have is the employee himself. He's not understanding what good customer service is, simply because either his manager, can't even define it himself.
Well,
Okay.
it's not just about defining it, Paul. One of the things that I noticed, and I'm going to give you a very, very specific example. Um, in the provinces, there would be restaurants and hotels that they would, of course, it would be logical to think that you're supposed to hire locals in the area, right? So
Right.
graduates in the area or people who are jobless in the area, these are the people who you'd be targeting to work for you because number one, they are within the proximity of your business, right? So they're close. You're hoping that they won't be late. It's easier to it's easier for their lives as well, commuting on a daily basis because they live within the area. Imagine if you are, but we've seen this a lot in call centers that they're based in Ortigas or Mandaluyong, but you'd be hearing them, they live from Bulacan, they live in Pampanga, right? They'll go out of their way because of the salary that they get. So that's one of the problems in the provinces that I noticed, and this is very common, and it happens a lot. That when you do hire someone within the area, and these type of people are very simple-minded people, okay, simple-minded, they have not been exposed a lot, so suddenly you want to open a fine dining restaurant in the province, in let's say in Pampanga, in Bulacan, in Cavite, in Tagaytay, and these people have not experienced fine dining themselves. I mean, when they get their salaries in their previous work, they wouldn't normally bring their families to these high-end restaurants, right? So no matter how hard sometimes you try and train them to give fine dining type of a service, they'll just think that you're just simply trying to, instill on them how you want it to be, not because it's the actual standard. Because why? They when they're out on their own, they get their salary, they'll just be eating at places where it matches, it's commensurate to the amount of money they make. So they'll go
Right.
to, like, why would you go to Vikings and you when you cannot afford that type, because it's gonna ding your salary for 1,000 pesos for every person, right? So if you're four, that's 4,000 right away. Now some of these basic minimum wage earners, that's more than half of their salary in one day, right? In one day that they spent, that was 15 days they work hard for it. So they normally go to places like Mang Inasal, right? You buy the chicken and you get unlimited rice, or they see a samgyup, which is only 199, right? Compared to the 900 of new in Vikings, the big restaurants, dads in, for that matter, or spirals, right? 3,000, 4,000 peso buffet, right? So imagine 3 to 4,000 buffet. If I go to a Sam Gift that's only 199, that's at least not even what half of my daily wage, right?
Right.
So they have not experienced the high end service. So they only experience where sometimes it's very simple. Some of them would even just eat in carinderias, right? So when they finally go work for you, they just feel like you're just simply doing a barrage. You're just, hounding, you're nagging them that this is how you want it to be. So part of training should be an immersion program.
Right.
It
Right.
could be
Right.
like your best employee for the week or the month. Uh, Take them out, in places where it's the service is really good, and dine and enjoy with this person and show them that how is it. They'll be saying, "Wow, they're so attentive. They're so focused. Every movement that we make, they come and say, 'Do you need anything? Can I help you with anything?'" So, of course, in Tagalog or in English, right? Whatever is comfortable for them. And
Right.
so, this is the reason why we want you to do that, because look at the standard. This is how it should be. Because most of their lives, they've never been exposed to those types, right? So
Correct.
this feel that you're just simply nagging them, you're being very strict. So there's a little bit of resistance, no matter how you reinforce it, they'll resist because it's just the idiosyncrasies of this owner, of this manager. They have to see it for themselves.
Okay, excellent. That's a very good way of helping them actually experience what it is that you want to happen in a fine dining restaurant, for
Yeah.
example. I thought I appreciate this conversation so much. Not only meeting you again, even though very briefly I saw you for the first time, but our shared experiences helped a lot in terms of helping us maybe carry this conversation,
Mhm.
especially the fact that I also graduated from hotel and restaurant administration, so that's where I actually started my training, if you want to say.
What school, Paul?
UP, but that was 1985. It was still hotel and restaurant administration. There were no
Yeah,
other schools that did it. It was
and
just UP, I think.
you were doing it across the highway, right? Commonwealth,
No,
the other side.
that's for some strange reason that was AIT. That was for the tourism course.
Oh, yeah. All right.
The one that I was at the other end. Now
Mhm.
they were UP Town Center is the mall.
Yeah, that area.
I was more in that area, but regardless, it was good to see you again. Okay, and before we let go, is there any way or any announcement that you'd like to share with our viewers, where we can reach you? Maybe you have an event coming up.
Oh, well, we have an event tomorrow, and this is the Philippine Advocates for Consultants and Trainers, where Dina is an honorary member or a lifetime member, if I remember. Uh, we will have a summit tomorrow. So that's happening tomorrow at Discovery Suites at the 22nd floor from 8 to 5 tomorrow. So we'll be having special guests on that day. So if I remember correctly, Jerry Ila, who is a co-founder of OLearn, uh, Sha Nasino, who is a CEO of Gratitude Connect, who also teaches a lot of youngsters or wannabe authors how to create your own ebook. I think that was the last thing that I've seen for Sha. We also have Benchito Tampon, who is a CEO of Sharp Rocket. He'll be talking about leveraging internet marketing to strengthen online presence. And Pocholo Gonzalez, he's a voice master, so he's a creative voices production CEO. So he'll be talking about how to use your voice and maximize your potential when you are a speaker, a trainer, or a consultant for that matter. And the last one is we have Jason Law, CEO of JL Unique Training Services. So these are our speakers for tomorrow. So that's happening at 8 to 5 at Discovery Suites on the 22nd floor.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you for informing our viewers. And for our viewers, as usual, if you enjoyed this or have enjoyed even a previous episode, or you want to continue watching, please do not forget to either subscribe, like, or even follow our upcoming events. We have started a new podcast series called Tip Talks, where we deconstruct the famous speeches from around the world. So far, we've talked about Martin Luther King, we've talked about Abraham Lincoln, and recently we just did President Obama, and we will be doing Cory Aquino very soon. And as always, we'll continue with our Leader's Edge. We'll be at episode 5, where we will be interviewing Miss Grace Bontad Nicolas, who is a serial entrepreneur, and she has so many insights about how to be an entrepreneur and how to get your business going.
All right.
And as always, let's wrap it up. Learning is a never-ending journey with limitless vistas.